这口痰再配合威鲁斯的 Q，
最后一口痰好像是杀掉了这边的 Meteor。Jinjiao 这个走位非常漂亮 ，ADD 这边开启大招，这波Jinjiao拿到4杀。
我们也是恭喜Bilibili进入到下一轮的对抗中。
未被冠以强手之名，我们用表现为自己扬名立万；
未被许以赛场主角，我们用成绩为自己争光添彩。
无畏前方强敌，无惧失败可能。
众志成城，只为登上那胜利之巅。
即使领跑了1整年的常规赛，却依然有人质疑我们的实力。
在胜者为王的赛场上，谁都知道，没有奖杯加冕的统治力都是空谈。
谁都明白，没有冠军的重担永远称不上最佳。这一次我们不会让机会溜走，
这一次我们会用胜利为这个夏天画上句号。
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first of the semi-finals here in the LPL playoffs. I'm Oshin BP. We're going to be jumping into Beijing for FunPlus Phoenix versus BLG, the regular season #1 versus the regular season #4. Before we get to that, of course, though, we have got a little bit of an announcement, of course. We have to go for our, kind of setup and everything like that. But before I get to that, we are going to have my beautiful analysts, Raz and Clement, joining me on the desk today.
Who brought you here?
Yeah.
This is my desk. Get out. It's actually just not that often whatsoever of us having a TriCast, being able to, butt binds. In fact, I remember I was playing play-by-play, and that was the first time we were able to have ourselves on the desk with each other. So that's, first of all, of course, great occasion. We have ourselves a semifinals of the LPL Summer Split, and potentially get to find who's the first team going to Worlds, because for FPX, if they end up going to the finals, that's it for them.
Yep, they're guaranteed a spot in Worlds based off points alone, so they can basically guarantee themselves at least group stage. But of course, how we got here as well is a very important thing as well. But I want to talk about a little bit of the playoff bracket and kind of bring us towards, how FPX really want to come into this one.
And BLG previously, they had a series where they were very dominant against EDGs, only 2 team fights away from closing that one down. So they're looking strong. And FPX, of course, our first seed, already waiting in semifinals. RNG and Top Esports, very much the same deal. Whoever wins there will get into Worlds based on points.
And it's crazy, right? For us to be in this situation where our spring split finalists bumped out of the playoffs hopes so early on. JDG couldn't even make it. Invictus Gaming bumped out in the first round towards LNG, so a lot of us had that hype to LNG that they can make that run. There's already just so much storytelling in the chunk of the playoffs that we've gone towards. So now that we have our top 4 teams, who were, as you actually mentioned, Ashin, the 4 teams that we had in the regular season, so consistency is reigned true here for the playoffs.
And I think as well, it's important to kind of notice as well that you mentioned it a little bit, last week, is consistency is key.
Yes.
And it's all about kind of, not just performing in the regular split, but for FPX, that's kind of all we've seen from them so far. They haven't really shown that they can be that playoff, behemoth, if you like.
I love Doinb's line at the start there. You cannot call a mid laner the best until he's won a championship. And that rings so true for Doinb. In both of these splits, FPX were far and away the best team in the LPL during regular season. However, when it comes to playoff, he's still trying to race over his own shadow and finally clinch a playoff win. He's only advanced once out of 5 tries in his career.
All right, let's get to it, though, because remember, this is FPX being introduced to the playoffs. Being able to nail the first 2 seedings mean that you just start at the semifinals. So we can get started right into the team's strength of them. Why don't you start it off with the tower dives that they have?
If you have to know FPX, their style is always about roaming the mid and the jungle together, both Tain and Doinb, into the side lanes and securing early kills. All about priority, and if you look at their early game stats, they are very dominant on the bottom side of the map. Most kills at 15, most towers at 15, and great dragon control coming out of their plays in the bot side.
Yeah, and the play style that they have is very predictable. They've done it time and again, but teams just don't know how to stop it with the early game dominance that they had. And it's led to a league-wide dominance. We haven't seen this level of success since, Spring Split 2018 Invictus Gaming, with the amount of wins that they've been able to garner. And you've been talking about the dives in the bot side of the map. They do that just as well towards GimGoon in the top side of the map. So it really does start with Tain and Doinb early. This isn't a replay, by the way. It happened again, and so really it's up to the enemy jungle to be able to track this, follow up, and defend against it. So few teams have been able to accomplish that.
It's so scary for FPX because they can play towards all 3 lanes. They are a true trident team where all 3 of their lanes are consistently in the lead compared to their opponents. So it's not just the bot side you have to defend, you have to look towards the top as well in GimGoon.
Yeah, and GimGoon's a god. Like, we've gotten to that level when we're having a conversation about the play style, the strategy that comes in with FPX's movements, but at the end of the day, GimGoon ultimately doesn't get many resources, if at all. Amongst top laners, he gets the least in terms of just gold economy. And it's crazy to be able to see the fact that when he's in a weak side matchup, when there are multiple people looking to dive him, not only will he be able to outplay that as he did multiple times in that series, but then later on in the game, have game-impacting team fights. And so GimGoon, to me, he's already eclipsed the Shy of being the top laner in the LPL. But I know that Gauntlet's on there. The Shy is going to come right back up. So that story still hasn't been told. But GimGoon really does feel like he deserves that essentially the first place position that he's given himself.
I honestly think GimGoon has transcended what you can do as a blue-collar top laner. No resources, but still great impact in the later phase of the game, and he's doing it by keeping up his carry performance as well. Lots of damage being dealt despite not a lot of resources, especially the Vladimir and the Renekton, 2 of the best weak side champions that we have in the top.
And as well, like he's, kind of a get a little, give a lot back to his team. But we're talking about giving a lot. We got to talk about the mid lane, because that's going to be our featured matchup for this one as well. Like Doinb versus Kuro. I'm excited because this is kind of like, the old school versus the new school.
Yeah, and for me, the old school, you'd look towards Kuro, who's been in the LCK, he's had that time, for me at the very least, who's been able to prove himself and prove his worth to the international audience, has been to Worlds. And while his record at Worlds is not clean whatsoever, and that's why people have a lot of doubt, they would look towards Doinb and say, at least get him to that stage. This split has been dominant for him. You can even see it based off of the kills and assists at 15. They're very active, and it's starting from the mid lane. And of course, the champion pool just eclipses Kuro because Doinb seems to have a counter pick at every, at every corner.
Both of these guys have very deep champion pools, and I want to highlight the fact that, in essence, they're going for the same style. They're both leaming their lane, but Kuro tried to outscale in the earlier part of the season, going for the Kayle and Cassiopeia, while Doinb seems like he wants to strike earlier and harder before 15 minutes.
Yes.
So we've introduced FPX. We've seen BLG recently. How do we think they fare? What are we thinking about in terms of this series? How are BLG able to crack open the Phoenix, if they can even?
I'll start it off by saying that if for BLG, if they were to take down FPX, it would have to be just through that raw consistency, keeping your head in the game. Because I've been having conversations with some of the Chinese casters out there, and there's some wavering faith in FPX's mentality when they get put in these positions. Specifically, Doinb, who's been in this position multiple times. He's been split MVPs, has been pushed to saying now you're going to be going to the finals, much like 2018 when he was on Rogue Warriors, and they've had great regular season runs. But if you end up taking that first loss, or if the series is difficult, then they start to tilt in a sense. While BLG, I don't see that. Throughout the regular season, they are a team that have been incredibly consistent and clean across all lanes, especially in some of the lanes that you don't have much faith in, like ADD coming into the league. A lot of people are saying, well, he's, a shotgun in a way. Like, you don't know what you're going to be able to see from him. And then you look towards Kuro, and in regular splits in the LCK, he's done so well, but it's when it matters.
MVP.
Exactly.
Yep.
When it counts, it doesn't really showcase itself. And you look to the bottom lane, Jinjiao always feel like he has a chip on his shoulder. But they are always in that fighting mentality and attitude to perform. And I feel like they can overperform today.
I give consistency to BLG, but I have to go with what I know, and FPX 4-0'd BLG this year. In fact, their last game only lasted 23 minutes. Overall, FPX is a matchup nightmare for BLG because they are faster, and I think they have more talent. In fact, Doinb, over his career against Kuro, has a 22 KDA. That champion pool is crushing, and the results show, so I'm going for a 3-0.
Oh, this is going straight towards them predictions. Okay, I can.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. That's cool. A lot of people have that in their hearts too. I can see that. So the fact you already put it as a 3-0, I think it's going to be a 3-1.
All FPX, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I would believe it to be a 3-1. I think I have a lot of faith in FPX, sure, but I think that BLG have shown that level of competitiveness in the last series that they had versus EDG. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, we had a guest analyst as well, of course, coming in, but I'll give my prediction first. I'm actually going to go 3-2. I actually think this will be a very, very close series, purely because I have a lot of faith in ADD and the veterancy in Kuro to contain FPX, but just not well enough to actually win the series.
All right. Who is this guest analyst, and what did they end up predicting? Are we going to have that one BLG?
Let's see.
Oh, let's see.
Let's see.
Who is it?
It was Spawn. He went 3-1, so he's very much in the same mindset as you. Feels that BLG have some talent, but not enough to take down the Phoenix.
The thing is, just kind of to take a note of him, you know, because, spoiler alert, I actually spoke to him, so I knew it was going to be Spawn coming in. Yes, I'm sorry.
I can't have this.
So
not
he believes, of course, that FPX is going to take it. He is a BLG fan, so he wants BLG to push forward and have that success. I will let the fans know that he's a Swift fan. So you OG LPL fans out there, that's the reason for it.
His heart says BLG, his head just cannot say FPX.
Can't ignore it.
But, you know, the teams coming in now, we are going to see FPX coming to the stage here in Beijing. Of course, we're going to have to see exactly what they're doing. They got to this stage last Spirit. They weren't exactly super successful with it. They did falter in the playoffs, and that's what they're going to want to try and conquer coming into the series.
And we have DX Master here, but looking at the lineups, we have GimGoon, Tain in the jungle, your LPL all-team first jungler, Doinb, Spring Split MVP, and then LW and Chris, the longest-standing duo of the LPL.
Yeah, I've been working alongside each other so damn long, but DX Master, what do you have for us? What does this say, Clement?
That is a Kung Fu book in his hand, so he's trying to learn some new moves, and he's got a lot of them.
Those look like manga drawing books.
But that's when you know Doinb has a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
True.
That's what he has a lot of tricks, and if I'm looking towards Kuro, guess what? Spring Split was when he was starting to roll up with so many assassins. So I'm just saying, there are a lot of new tricks showing itself from both of these mid laners.
The most important thing for BLG is to have an early game answer to FPX, and I think Kuro, like you were talking about, really needs a good champion to go up against Doinb.
Here they are, BLG coming out onto the stage. They've already played one best of 5, so they have got that underneath their belt at least. We'll have to see now if they are able to take down the side of FPX. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and I don't want people to look at BLG and just cast them aside. Throughout the entire playoffs, I said that BLG, coming into the playoffs itself, were the second strongest team currently performing. Of course, just behind FPX. In all intents and purposes, this would just be, you know, our pseudo-finals.
Definitely could be the case here. Now, I'm listening to what DX Master has to say. He's looking at all his Kung Fu books.
Oh!
And he's got some
potatoes?
No, those are buns.
Shows where my head goes, being the Irishman on the desk.
This is a lot of Kung Fu culture going in here, but it goes so deep that I don't even know where DX Master is going.
He definitely fell down a spiral after JD Gaming didn't make playoffs.
And just so you new viewers and new fans out there know, DX Master is, of course, the host in the JD venue. We're here in the JD venue in Beijing. He always has something creative up his sleeve. Either the references to Avengers, you know, snapping fingers and all that. Like, there's always something to look forward to. So that was fun. I just didn't understand it, sadly.
Hey, it's good to look at, you know. You can get the yeah, well, that's kind of more concerning. But I can say, you know, we're going to see the teams coming out, and now this kind of, you know, the pressure starts to mount a little bit. FPX, they've been in this position before. Last split, they got themselves the top, you know, they dominated Spring Split like we talked about, but they weren't able to convert that into actual playoff results.
Yeah.
What did they got to do?
So for me, I kind of alluded to it before about that level of consistency. The reason why they lost to JD in Spring was because in Game 4, they were in a game-winning position with Baron. They chose to fight that extra one. That's the team making that choice to take an extra bit of risk when they didn't need to do that. And then Game 5, I felt like another game-ending decision play that came through when it really felt like nervousness on the stage. I don't feel like that's going to happen here going up against BLG. I have a lot of faith that FPX can take this going into the finals, but it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that goes to show you that FPX, even though they've been dominant this year, they have not had a lot of playoff experience. In fact, out of Doinb, a lot of these players have been known to be talented, but always in a very chaotic environment. So this is a true new look for FPX, and we're going to look at Doinb and his champion pool. The Rise is something that I want to make note of because it has been the post-rework Rise, and BLG always takes that away from him.
Well, we have the pre-rework Pantheon just sitting there. But you're right. Like, for me, FPX is a team on red side. You do not know what FPX, or at least what Doinb is going to play for himself. I think the Rise pick, to your point, is incredibly consistent. He can get on the map super early. The Realm Warp is something that he oftentimes leans towards to make those plays happen. And then, very similarly, it's not called Realm Warp, but if you end up using your man drop, like, getting Doinb moving to side lanes is the most important thing for FPX.
And here's the question, can Kuro keep up with his champion pool? Because he has been playing more about just keeping in the lane and going towards late game. Azir is by far his best champion. You can see that in his DPM, 3rd overall in the league, but it's not a champion that's been known to leave lane and follow to side lanes.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that from the spring split to the summer split, Kuro has gone back to his prior playstyle, because I remember in the spring split, he went to a lot of assassins. He was going towards the LeBlanc, Akali's, and Akali I think is still going to be a big pick because it is just a little bit overpowered at the moment. But his pick right now has been, as you've mentioned, the Azir, Corki, and all that. He wants to get to the later game stages, and he's incredibly confident in what is Meteor. I'd say right now the current best performing jungler, and I know that we talked about the mid lane matchup. For all you LPL connoisseurs out there, you're certainly looking towards the jungle between Tain and Meteor, 2 incredible powerhouses at this moment in the early game.
First and second respective to the LPL All-Star teams, and Tain for me has been the biggest surprise of this year. If you told me that Tain was going to be the superstar he is today, I wouldn't believe you. You actually sat the bench on Suning in 2018, and even FPX did not believe that he would get so much success.
Yeah.
But they saw a very mechanically talented player, and the way that he's been moving with Doinb has been the biggest change to this squad. His Elise is fabulous, his Gragas is fabulous, the way he executes on the tower dives has been the best in the league.
Yeah, and so for me, my first question was, is it because, you know, Tain is a strong talent himself, or is it, you know, the Doinb factor, the communication coming through him? Spring Split, for me, at the very end, I realized it was Tain. Because when teams like RNG, Invictus Gaming, some of the best teams in the LPL at the time, were just nailing down Doinb, so he wasn't able to leave lane. He was constantly in deficits. It was up to Tain to make magic happen on the side lanes. And he was able to confidently do that, consistently push them to a 3-game series, and sometimes win, some moments wins, and other moments at least give them that hope. So I think Tain is a fantastic jungler who's not simply tied to Doinb because he's reliant on it. It's just the effective playstyle of FPX.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are into picks and bans for the first game of this best of 5. BLG on the blue, FPX on the red. And we have the bans coming out thick and fast.
And thank God for that, because if FPX is on red side, that's when I start to get color confused. Remember, BLG, the ice cool team, want to get to late game. Blue colors, FPX, red hot team, aggressive, wants to be fighting skirmish in the early portions of the game on the red side. Thank God for that.
And I just want to point out that we are still on patch 9.15, so the Azir and Corki nerfs have not came through. They are still the top tier, especially for Kuro when he considers his lane.
Speaking of Kuro, seems like that Akali, in my mind, goes towards him. He's a fantastic Kuro, Akali, as I have mentioned. And I think that it is just such a strong pick that can get you out of the lane, impactful, level 6 onwards. I wonder what Doinb would want to play against that.
We mentioned as well, obviously, the Meteor versus TM, both getting their signature champions banned away from them. The Gragas was banned by BLG, whereas the Olaf was banned by FPX. And we actually see an incredibly safe bot lane of Varus and Tahm Kench locked in for FPX.
I love this bot lane because it is very dive heavy. You can send people behind the tower, and Varus provides you with that lockdown post 6. So FPX are already setting up for that 4v2 we've been mentioning.
There's a lot of range and protection in the matchup, and for FPX, something we haven't discussed about was just like how LWX and Crisp want to play out the lanes. They want to play with priority. Very, very rarely do they play scaling matchups that get pushed in underneath their own tower, because it makes it much more difficult for Doinb and Tain to get action rolling down bot side. So going back to what is a safe, incredibly poke-heavy lane in the Varus and Tahm Kench makes a lot of sense.
FPX are setting themselves for a bot side focus game like you're talking about. GimGoon is gonna be left top. He's gonna use a Cannon Barrage to help out bottom lane. And talking about the Akali pick, if Kuro locks this down, this will actually be his first Akali of the summer split. He actually hasn't played it so far, so an interesting look on how he does on the champion.
Can still be flexed, of course. We might see ADD, but not really sitting in the wheelhouse of BLG's style. They generally go with kind of more of a bruiser of the top side, with ADD going with something like the Aatrox, which of course has been banned. And with the Lovers duo locked in as well, we're going to see the bot lanes and it's one solo lane each locked in for both sides.
So jungle bans are the most obvious thing, especially since you've mentioned, VP, coming into this one, that the Gragas and the Olaf, the mainstay junglers in the LPL, have been banned on phase 1. I'm surprised that neither of the junglers have actually elected to pick one going into the second phase.
The question for me here is, what does FPX pick as their diver? They've already got the bot lane set up. They need that hard crowd control, and I think Jarvan's a fantastic answer. Cataclysm into Cannon Barrage is the name of the game.
You have a lot of early priority. I would go towards a Sejuani pick here if I'm BLG in this state. You can really rely on the Akali in mid lane a little bit. Oh, we'll see where that Kiana ends up going. But I'm liking it a lot as a jungler.
I was going to say, we've seen it quite a bit actually in the LEC, picked up as a jungler. It is pretty certain it's going to go in there. I haven't personally seen Nico jungle myself, but not something I would assume would work well.
And this is something I like from BLG. We said that BLG needed an early game answer to FPX, and I think setting up kill lanes with Kiana is perfect. You get Nico on the binding, you can punish that game plank into the top lane. So if your bot lane gets dived, at least you have an answer on the other side of the map.
And I love that this gets locked in there for Doinb. I'm expecting that's going to be a rumble mid because they need to be fighting for priority. The fact that you now have shoving lanes in the Xayah Rakan bot side, you look towards top side, through mid lane, you know, Nico's going to be trying to force priority there as well, to be roaming alongside the Kiana. But Doinb says, that's not going to happen. Throw down the Flame Spitter, you get priority. We saw it coming into today's series, the amount of times they were able to find top lane dives with the pick. I think this time around, you're going to be seeing Doinb and Tain look towards the bot side of the map.
Yep, this is BLG's answer, however, to FPX's 4v2 style. We are going to kill Doinb before he ever gets to the river. That Nico and Kiana, they pack a lot of crowd control, a ton of stuns, so if they can catch him without Tain, I think BLG might have an answer.
That's why I love the fact that Game 1 is going to be about the 2v2 through mid. For both of these teams throughout the split, it really has been a showing of, you know, Meteor and Kuro and Doinb and Tain. These two players have had so much control in the game, allowing them, in BLG's case, to get to that 30-minute mark where the team fight is favorable for them, or for FPX case where they just outright stomp because of the two people who had those incredible early game leads. So it's going to be fun to see who ends up coming ahead.
We'll have to wait and see. Coaches have shaken hands. The comps have been locked in. We'll have to wait and see exactly how this early game goes and how the entire series goes. I imagine this will be a marker on how both these teams want to play it, as BLG look to try and take down the Phoenix, but the Phoenix needs to kind of slay its own demons.
Yeah, we'll have to see if FPX is ready for BLG in Game 1, because I love the pick potential from Meteor and Kuro alone. If we're just talking about it, getting into in-depth about the matchup, Kiana will be able to get on top of Jarvan pretty easily. If you Cataclysm, well, guess what? That's the terrain that she wants to get her ultimate going. Let's get into it.
I was gonna say, I think Doinb's wife has something in her throat.
That's definitely not his wife.
But level 1 pretty standard. No real kind of aggression coming out here from either side.
I wish I had a booming voice like that, but yeah, not going to be a late invade. It's nice to be able to see a bot side start here for Meteor, meaning he's going to be finding himself top side. It's going to be fun. Tain just doesn't want to, honestly, match the Kiana early. Thankfully, he's got Electrocute himself, so he's going to be trying to at least answer back with some level of burst himself.
And you can see that FPX are pretty afraid of the Kiana level 3 burst like you were talking about. They definitely have their blue entrance warded just to make sure that solo duel doesn't happen. And I think this goes to show you the background of the matchup. The way we've seen FPX shut down in the past has been by checking Tain at every buff. Karsa did that in the spring split. He wasn't able to do it in summer, but that is a good path for opponents to lean towards.
For both FPX and BLG, neither really has a massive legacy within the LPL, so this is an opportunity for both these sides to really stamp their authority and look towards the future.
Yeah, for me, that has kind of been a standard of the LPL post-franchisement. So many new organizations coming in with so many expectations behind that. So for FPX, you know, last year for me was that building period for the team. That was pre-Doinb. They brought in Cool, and they actually looked pretty damn good. And so they kind of realized the power of having a very strong and connected mid lane. So suddenly, GimGoon was more connected. He didn't just have to go towards a scaling pick and then pray that he didn't get dove. Speaking of praying so you don't get dove, seems like Meteor's top side.
But he has been spotted by something for some reason. FPX did ping his position out, and I think they're going to be relatively safe into the top lane. You see GimGoon already retreating back to the safety of his tower, and very good early warding from FPX. They definitely caught him at least at Raptors.
A good thing that FPX has here within the composition, we've kind of alluded to it, but didn't talk about the combination entirely. We've seen this pretty consistently from Clutch Gaming, actually, in North America, is just the typical J4 Rumble comp, which is put them in the Cataclysm and let them sit on that red carpet. And I think that in teamfight, incredibly effective, especially with that, we're just going to be talking about Venn diagrams, then the GP ultimate that can combine with that. They have so much easy like teamfight combos to roll with that BLG has to be worried about.
And I think it will come down to that first strike. If you get caught in River by FPX comp, they have so many ways to initiate on you, and the wombo combo potential is out of this world. So I think BLG are going to have to relinquish that first objective.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a pretty damn good Dragon team. Like the power, the follow-up there from Varus and Tom Kench is just going to be consistent. So from BLG's perspective, I think having the ability to trade sides, being able to move Kuro topside, get a dive going, so then FPX is at the most, you know, trading sides, and have to constantly be worrying about GimGoon's well-being, especially if the next dragon, if the first one falls, is not going to be beneficial if it's a Cloud or another Ocean.
Shouldn't expect to see BLG at many, you know, kind of 5v5 objective fights. They haven't really got anyone to tank a Baron or a Dragon later on in the game.
True.
They've got a lot of damage, but not a lot of sustain.
But they do have a lot of pick, and something BLG is really good at, as being that smarter team, is that they have a lot of good setups for those plays. And if you have an Akali who wants to find herself in a flank alongside the, you know, the Nico in the mid lane, then you better have good setups. So they can definitely pick fights later on, and they've been successful at that all split long.
This is something that GimGoon does a lot in his games. You can see him already setting up a freeze in the top lane. He likes to hold his wave close to that piece of terrain right outside his tower, and even though he might lose a lot of CS early on, it keeps him super, super safe, and that's how FPX has been playing towards their strong side in the bot, just by keeping GimGoon away from harms.
Yeah, and, you know, always had the wave thinned out just as well, to your point, because not only is it nice and frozen there, so he's in a spot in which he can farm safely, as you mentioned in the lane matchup, but if there, as I mentioned earlier, Meteor Kuro ends up finding his way topside, then good luck, you don't have a wave that can support you. So BLG, really good at being able to keep the enemy team at an arm's reach. This time you can see that from GimGoon.
Right now, both sides just kind of feeling each other out, making sure that they're not putting a step wrong, making sure they're not putting their one's foot in the grave, if you like, and the respect being given by FPX. This isn't the crazy aggression we're used to seeing from them. It's very respectful. It's very kind of slow and methodical.
And I think this bodes very well for BLG, because typically the way they lost to FPX has been just through laning phase. A lot of the times you see their solo lanes fall very far behind in the CS department. This goes well for BLG, who likes to play a later and slower game.
Had to give up the scuttle, though, as Doinb and Tain were roaming down into it. Again, Meteor just kind of giving that respect.
And that's going to have a lot of good trickle-down effect to the bot side of the map, where now Jinjiao and XinMo have to be thinking defensively, knowing that you don't have vision bot side. Knowing that now the level 6 really creeping, like LWX and Chris will be able to attain that. There's now kill threat in the bot side of the map, but nice challenge there from Meteor.
Nice little cheeky steal there. Ends up picking up the big raptor, the big chicken.
Got that.
Seems really interesting that BLG are constantly cheating towards the top side. This is the second Raptor camp that Meteor has been able to steal. So they're definitely looking at their potential to go towards the top side, maybe try to lock GimGoon down early.
And, you know, this is the series that I really was looking forward to. Because in terms of, like, coming into the playoffs, I thought both of these teams were top 2. And it really felt bad for me that, you know, we're not going to get this in the finals.
Yeah, you predicted BLG actually to make it all the way to Worlds.
Yeah, just because if it gets to that state, remember BLG don't have much. In fact,
they don't have any points.
Yeah,
championship points. That it'll be a struggle for them to get to the Gauntlet tournament itself. So they do need a good showing.
They do need 3rd place overall, and if they lose here today, that means no bueno. It's just hey, not going to happen, right? Oh, no, they could still get third. Okay. So it's not a dead end for them, but of course a lot more favorable if they continue.
I think I'm just going to bank my prediction off of them going up against FPX and losing. Not going to happen. I'm a calculated man. Speaking of calculated, this is a much larger wave than I was hoping for GimGoon.
Yeah, he has to use the Cannon Barrage to try and thin it out a little bit. Does have the barrels as well set up. They will push into him, but a good stun there from Meteor sets up the perfect execution. There's ADD forced to flash, though, as Doinb gets himself a long-range equalizer. Great start for BLG.
Yeah, at least the equalizer set something in motion for FPX. So now no flash there for ADD. That's just way too much kill threat. I was hoping that GimGoon had that incredible outplay, but that's not going to happen when you have both Qiyana and Akali looking to get you.
Yeah, I think GimGoon actually made a small mistake in flashing towards the terrain wall, giving Qiyana quite an easy ultimate right there. However, I will also say that BLG, in order for them to make use of it, they really need ADD ahead of the matchup, because they didn't actually gain that much from it. It was a bit of CS denied, 1 turret plating, but FPX still equalized with the objective. So I think the main win here is still just ADD getting ahead in the matchup.
All right. I mean, at the end of the day, whenever you're dealing with that goddamn Qiyana, is that damned if you do, damned if you don't, especially when you're near your turret. So terrain's just literally all over the place.
So hard to get out of that.
So very tough. At least they were able to get the Ocean Dragon for their troubles there, FPX. But this is where now you would definitely focus towards the bot side of the map. It's unfortunate that Doinb's ultimate on cooldown will be up very soon. Tain and Doinb can start to set up the plays that they've been looking for. Post 6, that's really their domain. And so I want to be able to see what BLG could do to defend that. The big worry that I had coming into this, I was talking about the second dragon, hoping that it wasn't going to be trash. Unfortunately, we're dumpster diving. So you can't now force BLG to respect your dragon pickup.
And this gives BLG opportunities to go into the late game where they have a superior 1-3-1 composition. You think about Nico and Akali into the side lanes and a Xayah that's very safe in the middle of the map. Then you have that 1-3-1 that can just grind things out. And that's kind of where FPX is weakest. When you go to the late game, they typically do lack answers outside of, just skirmishing-oriented games. And a fun tidbit for you is that FPX has actually never taken an Elder Drake this entire split. They've never needed to.
I was going to say, their game times probably don't go past 30 minutes that often, so.
Yeah, their dragon control rate past that is just absurd. First place by a very wide margin, but take a look at this.
Yeah, Meteor going to use the ultimate as well. He's going to get himself off to the side. The flash available. They're going to be flashing over to him as well. Ooh, actually a rare miss on the equalizer. Now Doinb finds himself here, but it's actually going to be a kill straight over the back, so that's going to be a 1-for-none trade. Is they're looking for Kuro to equalize those trades. Goes golden for reasons. But at the end of the day, 1-for-1 trade, a lot of summoners blown.
I can't say that was a success for FPX. They traded mid laner for a jungler, and all the summoners blown from Doinb. So I would actually like that from BLG. It increases their standing on the top side of the map.
It is way too hard to get on top of a Qiyana. And that's just something, FPX will start to realize they probably already have. The fact that, yeah, you sent down any wall, Cataclysm, sent down the Rumble ultimate, and then she can just traverse terrain so easily. Sure, she had to flash for it, so now you can at least have that as a timer, but can't be looking to that one as a pick option. You got to be looking at maybe bot side. I think it's a lot easier to look for Jinjiao. He would have to blow his flash for that one.
And I just think Kuro has so much more catch potential when he's going top. He does have the Glacial Augment and the GLP 800 done already. If GimGoon sees a tower dive coming, unless he has help, he's just dying there. He's going to have to stand his ground and just give his life up underneath the tower. And we're seeing FPX having to deal with a lot of pressure. This is very rare from them. We usually see them dominating pre-15, but now it's them having to answer to the turret dive.
I want to see exactly where FPX kind of take this. They have the mid-game comp. You've got the Cataclysm, you've got the Equalizer, but so far we've kind of seen more, like you say, reactionary plays coming out from the side of FPX. Not something we're used to, considering how much of a dominating season they had within, you know, the summer and spring split.
It's just tough because if you're looking at BLG's composition, a lot of it is incredibly safe. I know I did mention to the Kiana pick as being a safe one, but also Akali is the easiest safe pick you could talk about with the Shroud that she has available to him. Bots out of the match is literally the definition of safety. XinMo has that extra range now to basically play around, and then he can just duck right back to Jinjiao. So if you are Tain in this situation, there is no easy Cataclysm answer. So it's more of trying to set up that big fight and then force BLG to make a choice. BLG has to be the team that chooses a fight. And so playing towards the next dragon, even though it may not be as beneficial, I think is the right call for FPX.
Yeah, it definitely is. But if I'm BLG, I'm not walking into that river. No way, no how. FPX already have priority in the bot side and ward setup as well. So I think it's up, like you said, BLG probably are not going to make this venture.
You know what's funny though? We're definitely going to get that game that you were talking about, the fact that you know, FPX have never gotten to that Elder Dragon point, or at least a point in which Elder Dragon was a major priority. Exactly. But if we're just stacking dragons at this point, Elder Dragon would make it that much more beneficial. And of course, if we're getting this low on and a lot of the team fights is predicated on having that setup, a lot of the games too, just adding to that point, have naturally gotten longer. So throughout the split, the games have gotten longer, primarily through the meta picks, the patches that have been coming through. So remember, it's 9.15 for the people out there.
And this is a very rare occasion from FPX. We're finally seeing the tower dive come in. It's been very, very late, almost post 14 minutes, but BLG, great response here.
Yeah, they sniff it out. They know exactly where to put the ward at the right time. They will get a turret plate, maybe two. But right now, BLG just answering everything that FPX is throwing at them.
And LWX, you know, he's pretty comfortable in this position where if the dive doesn't come off, he's happy just getting the gold. Huge CS deficit right now there for Jinjiao, where LWX is just much more richer because of the scenario that he's been put in. So we've seen both sides from FPX finding the dives and outright getting the kill gold, or just realizing that they can just play it slower and say, well, LWX is going to be better off anyways, and we're still going to have a pretty damn good teamfight comp ready for us.
FPX have already hit their first item power spikes, and I have to give that first item advantage over to them. So they're really thinking about setting this one up. Likely Triforce coming in from the top lane. They're going to have that Leandri's or Morello's being done from the mid lane. And that's a lot of raw power compared to the utility builds that BLG has right now. So a huge power spike incoming. It's up to BLG to see if they react.
And right now, BLG, they are sitting on a couple of items themselves. We see the dragon actually gets reset, and looks like BLG are willing to just trade that one out for a Rift Herald. And honestly, don't see a problem with that trade. I think both sides are pretty happy.
Yeah, FPX can't play greedy and have their adjacent lanes kind of try and mess it up because they're just getting shoved in, honestly. So we're at that state where it is just going to be a trade. And if you take a look at the red side jungle there for BLG, a lot of defensive wards prepared for this, but take a look at this. This is just FPX going for it.
FPX do drop down the cannon barrage as well as the Varus ultimate as well. They're looking for just getting that turret. They have to blow the heal as well. They will eventually get it, and Jinjiao just spent too long in this bot side. Will let the feathers fly, but everything was used to take him down.
Yeah, he realized really early on that he is just dead in that situation. XinMo had abandoned the turret for a good reason, and then he realized the moment that J4 was there, he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to fight for it.
But this is a better trade for BLG. They got the top lane turret. They zoned GimGoon off of the wave. He's now down 50 CS. And they get the mid as well. BLG, I would say, diverted the exact amount of resources to come out with the win there.
And they forced the fact that, you know, so many ultimates and so much time had to be invested to get that tower in bot lane, because I feel like if FPX had just left it, they would have came out with nothing.
Yeah, and the core of the map being the most important one too now. Because Doinb now has to farm one wave less, or at least far closer to his inner turret. He's not going to be able to respond alongside Tain to pick up, you know, wards around the core of the map. So FPX should be losing out in the 2v2 through mid lane. We'll have to respond to the side lanes.
If you think about that play, it took FPX 4 members to lock down that kill into the bottom side, and they actually over-rotated for that one. Even if Xayah didn't make her stand there, they should have been able to get that tower with just 2 people, the Ocean Drake and the item spike. So they heavily over-committed for that one, and it's so refreshing to see a team call them out and actually equalize and profit on the other side.
Very uncharacteristic moves here from FPX. Definitely a lot more tentative, a little bit cagey perhaps, coming into this early game. Just want to try and, feel themselves out, make sure they're not putting a step wrong. But indecision is also a decision in itself, and sometimes that can bite you.
Well, I mean, look, it's not as if they're playing up against scrubs by any means. We talked about how BLG is a championship material, that they are a top 2 team right now performing. If we're just talking about the 4 teams currently present in the semifinals, I think RNG and Top Esports are a step below BLG. And so I'm not going to look at this series and say that FPX is by any means going to have a free one. I'm not even going to say that I think it's going to, you even put it to your own prediction that you think it's going to go to 5 games. So BLG playing it incredibly clean. And now I'm going to be looking towards ADD a little bit more because he has extra waves that he can push out. He's already been, dominating the matchup going up against GimGoon. And when he starts to rotate, as he tends to do, you can find setup for fights like these.
Very even coming up to the 18-minute mark. You see the Hextech Gunblade picked up for the Akali, as well as the Zhonya's now finished up alongside the Hextech GLP for Kuro in the mid lane. So right now you're looking at some big item spikes as well. You see, Doinb with the Morel and Amakong, as well as, the Hunting guy is going to be making that into a Leandri's Torment. So a lot of magic penetration, a lot of team fight potential for FPX.
And with 2 minutes left on the card until Baron comes up, you're going to start to divert the attention you've had towards Dragons straight towards that objective. Even if it is, to your point, incredibly difficult for BLG to pick that up without just sustaining some serious damage. They just want to look for the picks. They want FPX to really respect them around the objective so that Nico can find somebody. So you can get a flank coming in from Akali. So there's just so much setup for that pick potential. FPX is going to be aware of it. It's going to be BLG that has a lot of power for the next 5 to 6 minutes.
And BLG, on their side, they don't even need to rush into this Baron. I have to say, FPX are under so much pressure to actually find that 5v5 around the topside Baron pit right now, and BLG don't have to commit. They can spread across the map like this. They can take towers slowly. And while FPX is still troubling themselves with gaining back vision onto the top side, they're playing it super safe and controlled. And this is the biggest difference between BLG and other teams in the LPL. They know how to play safe. They're less trigger happy.
BLG trying to contest for vision around this Dragon Pit. It's going to be a Cloud Drake spawning in just under 45 seconds or so. And right now, it's BLG looking to try and see if they can get something here. The knockup does land on the ADD. They put down the cannon barrage. But that's a lot invested so far for one person as ADD looks for it. And in the mid lane, it looks like BLG are trying to find the bot lane duos of FPX. They burn the heal, but they do get the quickness out of the side of BLG. Right now, it looks like a potential 5v5 waiting for that equalizer. There it is. It's going to be able to cut off the rest of BLG, but no one can really follow up on it. Great chain of corruption, but again, not really able to gain anything from it.
Just very safe and tempered play from BLG. Some were thinking about why didn't XinMo flash in for the play. The reason was because ADD was sustaining a lot of damage on the back half of the fight. If they commit to the fight and don't get an outright pick, especially when Crisp is there, you're not going to expect that. It's going to be drawn out far longer. FPX are just going to flank you and take the fight as a back half. So I like the fact that BLG saw the situation, backed away from it. You don't want to die for a Cloud Dragon.
And the Cloud Dragon does go over to FPX. Meteor, though, has got the flank. Meteor goes in with the beautiful ultimate into the Pop Blossom. Everyone from FPX goes golden, but these health bars are melting, and BLG find their pick. They find their fight in a double. That's going to be more damage, more kills, but LWX will not go down quietly. He jumps in straight away. GimGoon now has to force a flash away, but they got him underneath the turret. BLG are going to be able to pretty easily take this one down, and that's going to be a huge fight in favor of BLG.
That crowd control chain was insane coming in from Meteor and XinMo. It was a triple stun onto the wall and then a 4-man knockup coming in from the Rakan. Absolutely great play, and that was a very smart play as well. They knew even though the situation favored FPX, they had an extra item buy over FPX.
But also just the raw power, as you mentioned, when the ultimates start to just line up with each other. Meteor, as you mentioned, starts with a play, humongous pickup, by the way, and then easily followed up with Nico. The moment that both of these layer down successfully, and you can say that Nico didn't find those 2 members, but they still have to fight. They still have to stick around for the rest of the damage. BLG has such a damn good composition when something like that from Meteor gets the pick.
And because they had expended so many of those big team fight ultimates to try and catch someone out on BLG before that dragon fight, it meant they had no response. There was no cannon barrage. There was no equalizer to layer on top of it. And FPX were just left wanting.
Yeah, I will say one takeaway from that fight from the perspective of FPX is LWX is a bad man. He just did so much being able to push Meteor off on that one. So respectable damage, a lot coming in from LWX. If you have the resources, as you have mentioned, the ultimate's ready and prepared, FPX can bite back. So taking a look at what FPX can do coming back into this game.
Yeah, I think FPX's only out at this point is try to use that Abyssal Voyage and catch people out when they're in the side lane push. If you look at the mid lane right now, Tahm Kench and Varus Can't Ventura, both sides of the river are warded down by BLG, so they have very little chances to actually catch the 3-man in the 1-3-1, which is typically your usual response.
Yeah, but take a look at the lane setups. So you're sending now a colleague to the bot side of the map, good decision. Because if you end up sending 2 to 3 members now to get the kill on ADD, first of all, it's going to take a long time. And second of all, BLG is ready to go for Baron. They're not going to pick up a Baron if it's contested heavily from FPX, but they're more than willing to trade for a Baron buff for ADD's life.
I just want to say FPX, however, still have that Wombo combo in hand. Cannon Barrage plus Liandry's Torment is one of the most devastating combos because everyone's going to get slowed, everyone's taking extra from the Rumble.
Yeah, you got the Venn diagram as you were talking about earlier of Cataclysm with the Equalizer, and then as they're trying to back away, they've got the Cannon Barrage as well.
That's why the most important thing for FPX to do, get flash timers. Take a look at BLG's side. If they sit in the Cataclysm, it's over for them. And you already see them because of the heavy focus they had in the last fight to get the rest of the members from FPX. Jinjiao doesn't have flash, XinMo doesn't have flash, Kuro and Meteor in the same boat. So you're almost, you know, guaranteeing FPX picks up a favorable fight if they're able to pick someone on a Cataclysm. So that's something that you should be looking towards for FPX in the future fights because it really is just dependent on that.
And I think the threat of the Wombo combo is going to stop BLG from trying to sneak the Baron. You go into that Baron pick, you take that MR reduction, and then Doinb can wipe your entire team. So actually this makes FPX pretty confident in their defense. They probably know they can just hang on to Raptor Vision and be assured that BLG's not going to start Baron themselves.
Take a look at this. GimGoon's going straight towards the Essence Reaver build. So this is that one-shot kind of GP build that we're looking towards. So the game does go much longer if FPX can hold on, as we expect that to be the case. Then damage is there for FPX. In team fights, they're going to be grouping up pretty consistently, and you're not worried for BLG, in any case, taking a front-to-back team fight. So almost necessary that ADD needs to be creative in those situations.
Zhonya's Hourglasses both finished up there. Redemption as well for the Rakan. So a little bit of reactionary kind of, play coming in from BLG, but we got to talk about, of course, Liandry's Torment finished up. You talked about that one, Clement, as well, but LWX going towards that wit's end as well, so he's going to be shredding through these pretty, honestly, squishy targets that he's going to be able to get on top of if he's given a few seconds in these team fights.
And that's actually a lot of sustain in this build as well, so if BLG want to do something about him, they do need to try and dive down LWX. Most likely for BLG, I agree with Raz's assessment, they don't want the 5v5. They're much better positioned to just try and find the picks within FPX's red side.
That's going to be the first dragon for BLG, the fourth one of the game. Going to be an Ocean, so not the highest of priority dragons, as we saw 2 Clouds and 2 Oceans so far. But like I said, we might be going towards FPX's first potential attempt at taking an Elder Drake, because right now they're just, taking it easy. They have to take it a little bit slow, and they have to look for those big Wombo combos.
What is that objective? I've never seen it before. What is that? It's probably from FPX.
Right now, FPX, they're happy enough farming up. You talked about the Essence Reaver. It's just been finished up there. Most certainly going to be going towards that kind of massive crit, 1 barrel kills all.
Yep, certainly. I'm just taking a look at, BLG and how they're preparing the map at the moment. I think the fact that they're now focused pretty heavily towards the top side of the map goes back to our point where Meteor really does dictate the flow of the map for both teams. If he decides to look bot side and try and get a pick on GimGoon pretty cheekily, know that you have teleport there for ADD and recognize if FPX either makes a push for Baron, then you can end up having ADD TP up top side. They can make risks. BLG can try and end the game as fast as possible. Take a look at the setup here, but great control ward there to be able to catch ADD on the flank.
And we haven't seen Crisp go for that kind of aggressive play like you're talking on the side lane, but FPX are going to find Meteor. They're going to drop down the equalizer as well. Meteor goes gold, and he's going to be able to keep himself alive. Put a good flash in, means the Pop Blossom going to land on everybody, and they follow it up with the Meteor damage on this Kiana. ADD is now jumped into the fight, but he's able to take out LWX on the backside. Crisp now taken so damn low. It's a 2-for-1 trade, a double kill for ADD, and Jinjiao is completely untouched. He's able to wreak havoc. He will chase down FPX, and right now, BLG have control over this river.
You think that, but I'm taking a look at FPX at this stage, and if I'm just looking at like the gold allocation, FPX got a lot out of it. Somehow Doinb survived off the play. GimGoon was ready to be able to fight back with the barrels that he had there. So at the end of the day, you're actually incredibly happy that FPX was able to sustain the initial burst that came through from BLG.
There was a moment of hesitation for me regarding FPX's side, because look at this corridor. This is a death wish coming in from FPX. They're all caught over. However, the flash over the wall from LWX really saves the team fight, because it goads BLG to kind of overextend, and then GimGoon comes into the back line to assassinate the solo lane.
We're going to have to spin off that replay very shortly as the Baron is going down. TP is going to come in. It's going to be taken by FPX. BLG, do they want to look for a re-engage? I don't really think they have the numbers with them to look for that.
Yeah, no ultimate there from XinMo, no flash as well, no way to catch FPX on the back half of that. Not only did they get the outer mid lane turret, big Baron buff pickup for FPX on that fight. Should have very easily, we were looking at it, you know, that BLG could have been able to take it, but the flank coming through from GimGoon was a real game changer. And you've mentioned, flash coming over the wall from LWX also baited ADD in. ADD was sacrificing himself to commit for the kill, and at the end of the day, FPX outplays the situation.
ADD got the kill, but he essentially traded his life for 400 HP on LWX. So that flash was worth so much. But wait a minute, GimGoon, what are you doing?
GimGoon drops down the cannon barrage. ADD gonna Shuriken flip his way out of that one to get the Cataclysm down onto Jinjiao. Has got flash available should he need it. There is the quickness as well. So they're going to have the Pop Blossom on the backside. This could be the fight coming in here for BLG as the Equalizer is used as a try to read back this fight. They will pick up 2-for-1 right now as Doinb and GimGoon are the only ones really that can turn this fight around. He goes golden with the Flame Spitter, but he's going to go down. BLG react to the Baron buff and they take most of them away.
Good question, Clement. You know, GimGoon saw somebody, the rest of FPX wanted that fire, but just the outright playmaking potential from BLG is putting them back in this.
And I can't believe they went for Jinjiao. That tells me they didn't have the flash timer on him, because he didn't even need to use it. That was just so far away from a successful catch that you have to say it looks like FPX just overplayed their hand tremendously. That's going to be 4 Baron buffs taken away.
A lot of the times, if you have that confidence, you want to push for more. But we talked about the strength of BLG's composition. It's just that flank power.
1-3-1, baby.
But like, they're just in the team fight. So it's like Kuro ends up finding that humongous flank, netting 3 people when it was a great position to follow up with extra CC.
And you can see him here right now. ADD is going to be one kind of pseudo caught out, but I think Gingu is just a little bit too trigger happy.
Yeah, this is such a weird sequence. Look at where Doinb is on the map. He clearly does not want to join this one, and he's miles away from the action as Kuro gets this beautiful triple to close down the deal.
And if you look at the positioning from this one, easy for BLG to just cut straight through the rest of FPX. Crisp is in such a tough position because he needs to be there to save LWX, but incredibly slowed on the play because of the GLP. So really tough from FPX on the back half of the fight because they simply didn't expect Kuro to be on that flank. You're right. They thought it was going to be a quick pick and that they didn't need Doinb. They really required him for it.
FPX should not try to look for these catches because their strength really is in the Wombo combo. If you look at that fight, Cataclysm was layered with nothing, not even the cannon barrage. So FPX, they need to be very careful in open terrain.
Here we go. Might see another flank coming in as ADD and Kuro are off to the sides. ADD though needs the Shuriken flip and use the Shroud. Get himself out. They made a decision, FPX, knowing where they're now weak, and they need to make decisions off of that.
Yeah, FPX is wise to this now. They've been hit up by this a few times too many. So I love the fact that they're recognizing that the flank is a possibility. And take a look at the map. Control wards now at the ready on the left side of the map. They did end up losing Dragon, but it's nice to them now having both sides of the bottom side river, top side river, so that they go straight through the mid lane. Is not a possibility of Kuro and ADD to try that again.
I will have to say BLG still hold the edge in terms of the 1-3-1, and we've been seeing, because FPX have been grouping up so much, the CS leads finally take over on BLG's side, especially looking at their bot lane. Jinjiao was actually behind the entire game, but because LWX has to group with his chain of corruption, we see Jinjiao finally taking over that CS lead and cementing himself in the game.
We're looking at about 3.5 items for pretty much all the carries on both sides. You can see it there. The Void Staff finished up there for the Akali on top side. You've now got the Sterix Gauge for the Gangplank as well. They lost 600 gold off of that Baron play, so pretty much null and void. You actually get 1,500 straight away, so that's a 2,000 net loss.
Yeah, having this setup when you end up getting that push is incredibly important. Sometimes, you know, when you're in your solo queue game, and you have a superior teamfight composition, or at least if you get the setup, you end up looking for it. Take a look at this. Seems like they're hunting XinMo.
Now looking for something there. Did not land the EQ combo, the flag and drag, but they're hunting and they know they can pick someone up. But it kind of feels like right now, they're the ones looking for the pick. They're the ones that kind of make a numbers disadvantage because they don't feel confident going up against the huge AoE that they have seen from Kuro's Nico.
Time is not on FPX's side, and watch how BLG is reacting to this. Both side lanes push out, they get the big wave before they converge onto the mid lane, and Jinjiao and XinMo stay safe on the lovers duo. It's so damn hard to catch a Xayah on open terrain like this one, and BLG are just running circles around FPX for now.
Ward's going to be, vision going to be the key, I should say, from both sides. You can actually see Tain going with an incredibly defensive build. He knows that he is not the carry in this one, has got the Knight's Vow to, I'm almost certainly give that over to LWX or on top of GimGoon. Hell, if, you know, Doinb's overheated, you can give it to him as well. But right now, it's all about, you know, enabling your carries and making sure that you've got the damage to be able to turn these fights.
Yeah, I like the call. At the end of the day, it's much better for you to just recognize that you're trying to sit in the fight for as long as possible, prolong the backline of finding, you know, space to get to Doinb or get to LWX. At this stage, LWX is someone that you want to have that amount of protection for. Sure, he's on the Varus and has a lot of range for himself, but just doesn't have a way to protect himself and really requires Chris to be nearby him. We'll see if XinMo ends up being the pick option. Once again, talking about how incredibly difficult it is for Tain to find somebody. This is hard, but where are we going?
Abyssal Voyage into the mid lane. They're going to try and catch out Jinjiao. He's forced to flash away. Does get his ultimate off as well. Redemption comes down on top of the equalizer, but it doesn't matter because Doinb goes in immediately with the flash on the backside of the fight, though. We have got Kuro and Meteor with ADD trying to just replicate some kind of a fight, but a massive ultimate from Meteor sets up ADD for a double kill, and now FPX are on the run. They've got nowhere to go. They've got nowhere to hide, and they will lose one more. They will lose potentially two more, and they will lose everybody off of that fight. BLG with blinking health bars, but they get the ace.
FPX just don't have answers, because BLG is consistent of just diving straight towards LWX. He didn't even have an opportunity to get out of there. Held onto his flash, because it was just Kuro and ADD on him at all times.
I have to say, once again, FPX overplay their hand. They go too deep into the second mid lane tower. They expend the flashes on Doinb all the way, and their backline is completely exposed. BLG played the 1-3-1 into collapse game perfectly.
Think of it from, you know, FPX's perspective. How do they play these fights out when BLG is never grouped up? They're always either on side lanes, to your point, with Akali finding herself with a top lane push, or are always in position to find that collapse. And so for FPX, their system is go. If we can just find the AD carry who has the most consistent point of damage for the team, then they should be able to clean up the rest. But, you know, by the end of it, Doinb had 30% HP.
It was a really good play from Jinjiao as well. He was not hit by the chain of corruptions until he was underneath his own tower. Very crucial for dragging out the line and exposing the backline for FPX.
The funniest thing about this is that Redemption was actually just so close to keeping him alive. That's how close it was. Take a look at it, just the timer itself. Rumble ultimate stacked up, he just flashes forward because he recognizes that Redemption was so close to being able to get it. That tower dive made it so Doinb couldn't go back to his team and have that extra help. But with the ultimate that you had there from Kiana,
wow.
I don't even think it would have been, you know, close, to be fair.
I was thinking, why did Doinb pop his Zhonya's? He had to, or the Kiana ultimate would have killed him. That thing is so thick when it walks across terrain.
Gotta say though, Doinb was very, very, very close to turning that one around. Blinking health bars, and it's those little small things. As I say that though, actually gonna catch out Jinjiao again as the Redemption comes down alongside the Cannon Barrage and the Redemption as well. They're gonna jump in on top of this as the Cataclysm on the backside. It's gonna be a fight on two fronts. It's gonna be all BLG though, all the time, and BLG will take a clean ace, fight for nothing.
XinMo was a bad man that fight. That was an incredible charm and knock up on what was 3 to 4 members on the side of FPX. FPX incredibly confused at how to play this one out.
Man, that can't be good for your mental right there. Getting completely aced as the heavy favorite coming into the series right out the gates. BLG is showing that they can hang with the heavyweights.
And BLG mark themselves as a number 4 team, as a number 1 team potentially, and take the first game in this best of 5. And Clement, your prediction's already wrong.
Rest in peace.
I'm already out the window, and I think we might all be wrong by the end of the day, the way this series has been going. BLG is just coming out so strong. They contested the early game. They stayed very, very safe in the bot lane, never overcommitted to protecting their bottom side. And the key for me is patience is a rare virtue in the LPL, and BLG understand that.
Incredibly solid. Coach Sim in the back has to be super proud of how they played this comp out to the team. And there were blips, to be fair, in the gold chart because FPX were finding fights. But the moment they got the Baron and they had to push in through victory, remember how FPX ordinarily plays out their compositions. It doesn't even matter if they have, a split pushing element within the team. They do not split. They group up. They try and just outright dominate. They have such quick game times too. So to just go barreling straight through the mid lane, BLG reading that and just clumping and taking down the backline in LWX. Very clean, consistent plays coming in from BLG.
I think as well, if there was any questions over whether Kuro was going to be able to perform in playoffs, he just backhanded people and said, how dare you? That was a masterclass of flanking on the Nico. He just set up his team so perfectly.
And that was the first win BLG has had over FPX. This iteration of BLG with Kuro and ADD had over FPX their entire career so far in the LPL. So magnificent stuff coming in from them. They perfectly understand their position in the matchup as the 1-3-1 late game type of team, and they execute it so well. So it's up to FPX now to answer back.
It's kind of crazy because, a lot of the times when you watch games from BLG, you struggle to find a clear-cut MVP. For me, of course, it's Meteor, with how well he played the early game out and in the later game team fights. But every player had those moments. Jinjiao consistently, when he was Doe, played it out so well in the last fight. He was just outright safe. He was in a great spot. In fact, if they were ever to come anywhere near him, he could still recall those feathers. So he was in a perfectly fine spot. And then the playmakers of, ADD as the Akali, perfect game from him. He had great laning phase, great team fights. Kuro, as you've mentioned. For me, MVP goes to Meteor, but damn, every member feels like they deserve it.
Yeah, BLG decision-making this game was far superior to FPX. That's what I want to mention. The biggest sequences for me was the bot lane dive that FPX committed 4-4, and then BLG got 2 towers. And the second one, of course, was the first Drake fight. We were talking about this is FPX's time to shine. They overstay. BLG realized they have an extra back, extra items, and they ace them.
I think as well, it just felt like BLG were on the same page. Everyone knew what their role was. Everyone knew how to play with each other. FPX just, they looked like they were kind of second-guessing each other. We saw, Cannon Barrage, GimGoon, all of a sudden, Cataclysm off and completely nothing following up. It just seemed very odd for us to see, FPX so uncoordinated.
I think for them, and I know what moment you're talking about within the game, it was mostly just they knew they wanted to fight. But the ability, the efficiency with how they were using their resources, a lot of the times BLG picked proper fights because they knew that the ultimates were already well used from FPX. So I want to see something more cleaner from FPX going into Game 2.
We'll have to wait and see. We are going to throw it to a quick break. When we return, we will see what FPX's reply is. We'll see you soon.